We are discussing today's top stories with Vanessa Feltz and Michelle Gayle. Welcome to both of you.
Good morning.
Let's start with 3 pubs across England have been announced. They've had to announce that they're closing after discovering a number of customers tested positive for COVID-19. It was the Lighthouse and Carvery in Somerset, the Fox and House in West Yorkshire, and the Village Home pub in Hampshire all announced that they have closed. The staff are going to be self-isolating. There's been a lot of hysteria about this today. This is what happens, this is what happens. But I suppose hopefully, there are going to be the occasional isolated outbreaks.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it was vital to open the pubs, not just for the physical health, but the mental health of the nation. Everyone was desperate to get to the pub. And really, 3 pubs, it's very sad, it's worrying for those people, but infinitesimal when you think of all the pubs in the whole of England that opened on that day. So really, I think it has to be seen as a plus rather than a minus.
And Michelle, I mean, it shows that the system works, doesn't it? I mean, I went to the pub on Saturday, you have to register. It shows that this track and trace system that they've put in place has alerted those people and they can now isolate.
Yes, and I'd like to commend those people that did phone in and alert the pub and allowing the pub to let all the customers know and close. I would say I went out on Saturday. A lot of my friends did not want to go out on Saturday, and where I went to ended up being very quiet, much quieter than we anticipated. So I think people are still being cautious, quite rightly, and this is another way of letting people know the virus is still out there, be careful, but the system looks like it's working.
Okay. Yep.
OK, let's move on to a different story now. And this is Meghan and Harry had a video call yesterday, and the couple said that we must acknowledge the past wrongs of the British state. Let's have a look at a clip. This is what they said. So, Michelle, people are questioning here whether they are right to criticise the Commonwealth whilst still being representatives of it. What did you make of what they had to say?
That is why it is so important. It's so important that his family, who preside over the Commonwealth, acknowledge the wrongs of the British Empire. It's very important. I mean, as a child whose parents are from the Commonwealth, I think people think if you criticise it, it means they won't like the royal family. I can tell you, especially in the older generation, they have a lot of regard for the Queen, but they are very aware of the wrongs of the British Empire and some of the structures that are still in place that are a problem. So it is a difficult conversation. It is an awkward conversation. And who more awkward to incite or instigate that conversation than someone whose family presides over them? I am so proud that he is willing to stand up in this way and, you know, and take the flak. Because let's be honest here, he got less flack when he wore the Nazi suit. I mean, Prince Harry standing up against racism, a bad thing, gets continually criticised for it. But I can say, as someone who is a child of the Commonwealth, I am so proud that the black and brown people who sometimes feel so forgotten are now being acknowledged by his family in this way.
A lot of commentators are saying yesterday, oh, the Queen's going to be furious, the Queen's going to be... This is not a new conversation, because in May this year, the charity's CEO, Nicola Brentnell, said we've started a conversation about how the Commonwealth past of colonialism and the subjugation of peoples and the ongoing legacy of such historic injustice can and should shape the identity of the organisation, Vanessa. So, you know, the conversation was started in May. Harry's picking up the baton.
I think it's a vital conversation. I think it's absolutely essential, most particularly that we're all taught at school and we all learn about the reality of our history, that which we must be very, very proud of, that which we must cherish, and there's a great deal to cherish, but also that which is, you know, a blot on our landscape and something that we need to address. But I do think there's some kind of feeling that Harry and Meghan seem very preachy. And when Meghan talks about an uncomfortable conversation, we know they're very comfortably ensconced in Tyler Perry's multi-room mansion in LA. And so the idea of them telling other people what to think and how to feel is a little uncomfortable, because they seem a little bit holier than thou, and I'm not necessarily certain that I want my history lesson from them. However, what they're saying, of course, I agree with.
Well, but Michelle, you were shaking your head there.
No, I don't think... that's the point, right? You can be Meghan in a big mansion in LA and still experience racism. That's how deeply entrenched it is in this society. And that's why it's important that people like her, seemingly at the very top of society, say, hey, I still experience racism too, and I will do something to help you. I think it's very important. And your riches and how successful you are have no bearing on the fact of whether you experience racism or not.
OK, thank you.
Next story here. This is we're going down to Cornwall. If you were fancying a trip, it's a picture shared widely on social media. 3 people on a bridge over the A30 in Bodmin, holding up a banner saying "Turn around and go home."
Well...
Cornwall's chief of tourism has criticised this and called it unforgivable. Meanwhile, in Dawlish, a Devon man dressed in a Grim Reaper costume held up a sign which read "Welcome holidaymakers" as he greeted visitors on their way to a holiday park.
Oh, my gosh.
So we want to feel welcome when we go on our staycation, and we want to support our local communities and the hotels and campsites which are now opening up. Obviously, it looks like the Cornish Tourist Board don't ally themselves with that sort of view. There are going to be individuals who are maybe concerned, but nevertheless, Vanessa, does that make you think that you don't want to go?
It's a good old-fashioned Anglo-Saxon word. It's one that Chaucer was happy to use. We all understand what they're saying. It's nice and brief and monosyllabic. It's not necessarily the most polite way of addressing the situation. What they don't want, obviously, is people coasting down from big cities and conurbations, carrying COVID-19 and bringing it to their beautiful coastal resorts. On the other hand, most of them are hugely dependent on the tourist industry and desperately need us to come and eat their fish and chips and sit on the beach and go to their hotels and their B&Bs. So they better be a little more polite, because otherwise we'll find somewhere else to go and we won't go back if they're not a bit nicer.
Michelle, finally?
Well, listen, there's obviously a fear of us from urban environments coming in and bringing COVID-19 in. I think it's a valid fear. They could maybe voice it a little bit nicely. But, yeah, I understand the fear. I don't think it's going to put anybody off going. Everyone I know is doing a staycation this year, and they're all booked. And so people of Cornwall, beware.
OK, thank you both very much.